Hi, everybody. My name's Katelyn, and today we're going to talk about the different states of matter. So you're probably pretty familiar with the three most common states of matter, which are the solid, liquid, and gas phases. However, there are also two more less common states of matter. They're the plasma state and the Bose-Einstein condensate state. So Bose-Einstein condensates are actually a man-made state of matter, and plasmas only occur at very high temperatures. However, you're only going to really talk about that in higher level chemistry classes. So we're going to go ahead and focus in on solid, liquid, and gases. The way I like to think about these states of matter and their unique properties is by placing each of those states into a rectangular box. So we're going to go ahead and put a circular solid into this box right here. So this solid, we're going to talk about its shape. It's circular. And whether or not I place this circular solid into a square box, a rectangular box, or even another circular box, the shape does not change, meaning that solids have a definite shape. Now we're going to talk about volume. So the way I like to think about volume is that it is the amount of 3D space that matter occupies. So we placed this circular solid into this rectangular box. The shape didn't change, and the amount of 3D space that this solid is occupying didn't change. It's just where that 3D space is that it changed. So now it's in a rectangular box versus before where it might have been in a different space. So the volume is also definite. Now, to think about the space between molecules, I want you to think about kind of what you think of when you see a solid. So this circle might be solid steel, which means it's very compact and it's very close together. So the space between the molecules are going to be very little. So there's the least space between molecules when compared to liquids or gases. It's going to be the most compact. Now, I want you to think about density. So density equals mass over volume. And what density really is how much matter is occupying a singular piece of space at a time. And in the case of solids, there's a lot of molecules packed into a very small space, which means there's a very high density. Now with liquid, the way I like to visualize this is by basically having this, we're going to draw a circular basin. Ooh. And we're going to pour water from this circular basin into this square container. We're just going to say that's all filled in. So the shape turned from a circle into a rectangle. So it actually changed its shape to fit the container it was in. Therefore, liquids have an indefinite shape. However, and this is something that you see a lot, when you place a little bit of water when you place all the water from this circular basin to the rectangle, the amount of space, the amount of 3D space that it's occupying didn't change. It's just the shape that changed. So the volume's still definite in the case of a liquid. Now, because liquid's a little bit more fluid, you can think about it as the space between molecules is much larger now. So there's more space than in the case of a solid. And then finally for density, again, same thing, it's less dense than a solid. Then for gas, I like to think of gas, we're going to go ahead and use like a diatomic element. So oxygen, which is O2, we're going to go ahead and draw a ton of little oxygens, O2s all around here. Now, if I were to move all of these O2s into a different container, the shape would change to fit that container. You know that because there's not little pockets of air where there's no O2. It spreads out to fit the container it's in. So it's indefinite, just like a liquid. Now, the difference is that the volume of gas is also indefinite, meaning that it will expand or compress depending on the amount of space that it's given. And then finally, the space between molecules, again, like I said, gas is a little bit more fluid in the fact it will change its shape and its volume. So this has the most space between molecules, making it the least dense. So I hope that gives you guys a good overview of the different states of matter. Of course, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop by the Rinella Center and we can help you out. Good luck on your next test or quiz.